Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to share my own experience of what I've experienced in the tech ecosystem. So for this session, I will be talking about turning a tech innovation into a viable business. I will give a one-on-one guide to launching a tech startup as a woman, and I will do it from my own perspective of being a founder myself and also supporting entrepreneurs. So my name is Sheila Yabo, and I'm program manager for the Solution Space. The Solution Space is an ecosystem for early stage startups at the University of Cape Town. A bit about myself, I'm a business strategist. My undergraduate studies are in social sciences. I started with gender studies, majoring in gender studies and social anthropology. So I've always been interested in the connection between society and business. In my postgrad, I did a postgraduate diploma in business administration, once again trying to merge and I guess make sense of what the connection is between how societies behave and how businesses behave. I'm a venture builder, so I've helped a lot of businesses to go from idea to launch. I have a big network in Africa and most recently in Silicon Valley, just trying to understand what we can learn from both ecosystems. Most importantly, I'm a mother to an 8-year-old boy, and I'm also an angel investor. I just made my first investment in a tech startup. So today I will be taking you through the process of verifying and getting to launch an idea. You know, a lot of us have ideas, and of course, we all think that our own ideas are the next big thing. Entrepreneurship is a very subjective process, I believe, but I think that it's better to do it in a trialed and tested way to make sure that you don't waste resources, you don't waste your time investing in an idea that is never going to fly, or an idea that customers are never even going to want to buy. So I'll be taking you through that process, and then I'll be talking about navigating the tech ecosystem, and it will be from my own perspective and as a program manager for an accelerator, how I navigate the ecosystem, but also how I help or work hand in hand with other women to belong in this ecosystem. And then lastly, I will end the session on just sharing insights on how I leverage my network. It's a cliche, but really your network is your net worth. So by nature, entrepreneurship is supposed to be a value generating process that creates impact through a contribution to economic growth and making impact to the society. But that's not the case. We've seen so many ideas fail. We've seen so many entrepreneurs that have invested their life savings, their families have invested money into their businesses, but the businesses just don't get to launch, or they launch, but they fail quickly after launching. What I've seen, and I think a lot of studies also support this, is that most businesses fail because the entrepreneur or the team has identified a problem, but it's not a problem that is big enough. And the scale or how big the problem is directly related into how big your customer base is. So I think the trick for any venture or any entrepreneur is to really understand the problem, be empathetic on how you deal with the problem and how you define the problem. And that means really studying the market that you want to go into, making sure that whatever you are providing or whatever you are proposing as a solution is a relevant solution that has a problem that exists. I've seen a lot of people, you meet with someone and you ask, okay, You say that this is a problem. Have you researched it? Have you spoken to people to make sure that it is an existing problem? And people say, oh, yes, my mom thinks this is a great idea. This is a reality. But if it's just you or your friend that is going to buy your product, then you don't have a market. And then what I've seen is also you meet a lot of entrepreneurs. I've also been here where you have this great idea. You've identified the problem. Your solution seems like something that could work. So you are able to verify the claim that you are claiming in relation to your solution, but there's lack of execution, and time in launching an idea is absolutely critical. That's why you meet a lot of people saying, oh, I thought about this, but now I see that so and so has launched the same thing. So it's all about execution. It's all about getting those transactions. And when I say transactions, it's not you selling something to someone, but it's you being able to say, today I spoke to 10 people. I've asked them about, if I were to create this app, or if I were to create or give this solution, do you think it would add value? And I think for me, that's what sets entrepreneurs apart. We all have ideas, but if you can execute at speed, you are probably going to differentiate yourself from the rest. And then I think this is something, the third idea, or the third point rather, is something that I don't think we speak enough about. There's great solutions out there where you see that there's really a market need, but most of the time, founders don't spend a lot of time on the team. So in order for any idea to launch, you need a team that is competent, that has the right capabilities to launch. So you cannot be in a tech startup, but you don't have a tech person that is involved and is spending a lot of time with the idea. It doesn't need to be a co-founder, but you need to identify the key functions that you are going to need to launch the idea. And then this is another big one, the last one, where a lot of founders romanticize the solution, especially tech. So people will be telling you about these great features that this app comes with, it's AI driven, it's all of this and it's all of this. And then there's a lot of hype around the solution, but is it the right solution? Are you addressing the right problem, and are you addressing the right market? So I always say, before you build and before you launch, get to know the problem, fall in love with the problem rather than the solution. And particularly with tech, we have to remember that tech is just an enabler. It's not the actual solution. So you still have to go through a process where you identify what the problem is and what the right solution is for that problem. And then you use tech to enable you to reach more customers, to make your processes more efficient, and to just launch at scale. But I want to drive the point that tech is just an enabler, and it's a great enabler that can help facilitate the process of growth, but you still need to know what the actual solution is, and then you back it up with the tech. Going back to what I mentioned before, the critical thing with any idea, if you are going to go from just an idea to launch, you just need to start. You need to identify what the problem is, and then you need to be always engaging with what the solution is. And don't do it in your own home or with your own friends. Get your product or your service as quickly as you can to the hands of your customer, because that is the only way that you are going to launch quickly. And if you need to fail, you will fail quicker. It sounds very sad, but it's a reality. So if something is going to fail, it needs to fail quicker, then you move on to the next thing, or you look at how you can offer the same thing, but looking at what the most relevant way is to do that. I like this graphic here by Code Mentor. And it just it gives an overview of what the process is, or what the process should be, from waking up with an idea and finding that product market fit, which is where you've verified that this idea works. You can prove that the claim that you are making about your solution is indeed true, and you do that through engaging with your customers, getting customers, and also retaining it. So in 4 steps, you need, I think in weeks or days, you can do a proof of concept. And this is just to ascertain that this is possibly a feasible solution. So you identify what the problem is, what the solution is. You don't even need to build here on this stage. You just need to engage with people to say, okay, if I were to offer you this service or this product to solve the XYZ part of your problem or your problem, do you think this would add value? Do you think you would buy it? Would you use it? If so, how much would you pay for it? Just getting a lot of insights before you even start thinking about how the technology is going to work. And then in a month or a few months, you can move. Once you have all the insights, you then move to prototyping. Now that you've identified this is what you want to provide, this is what the customer is saying, then you start visualizing what the solution will be looking like. So this is what you need to build, and this is how it's going to be used. And then I think in space of months also, and this is where it's very important to execute at speed. And it doesn't mean that you have to rush the process, but you need to learn to not waste time on activities that are not value generating. And then your minimum viable product. Then you know that definitely this is something that you need to build. Once again, if it's an app, it's you need to build the minimum product, which means less features. I prefer actually having a few features, testing those out, that they really address the problem that you are solving. You've identified what the user journey is, and what this product means to your customer. And this is the stage where you will know if your product or your service will become a viable business or not. And it's important here to also have a very strong monitoring and evaluation process, where you get live insights from your customers, from your users, and you iterate based on what the need is. And the product market fit, I think a lot of time we speak about it as if it's an easy thing. It's not an easy thing, and I think it's an iterative process where in years you could be testing out the same thing. But the biggest thing here is that you have a product that is in the hands of a customer, and you are using as much insights that you are getting from them to make sure that, number one, you've definitely identified the right market for your product. You definitely know what value you are generating for both your customers and for you. And of course, that you have efficient processes, you've identified, you've found what really works, and what the fit, the perfect fit is between the product and the market. So basically that the value that you have, or your value proposition and your business model, makes sense. And in the end, you will have a sustainable business that is high impact through providing the service to your customers, and also being a sustainable and viable business. So as mentioned, I am part of the solution space, and I've also had businesses ideas that didn't launch, and two that actually launched but quickly failed, because I actually launched both of them without really understanding what the customer wants. So in 10 steps, you can verify and launch a business. And I think for me, this process can take, ideally for me, it doesn't take more than 8 to 10 months for you to launch. But of course, it depends on the complexity of your product or your app. But I think before you even invest a lot of resources, and resources can be money, it can be your time, your energy. There are steps that you can take that at the end you definitely know if you have a business or you don't. Number one, I've already spoken about it. You need to clearly define what the problem is. Then you need to develop a solution that fits the problem. Don't complicate it. There's a lot of tools that you can use here where you can sit and you brainstorm what the problem is and what the solution is. This also needs a lot of research. So you can research the market, but also you can engage with potential customers. And then you need to validate the idea. So if you just say, you wake up one day, I've identified that there's this problem, and this is the solution that I'm going to build or to provide. That is not verifying the idea. Verifying the idea is getting out of the building, having something tangible or a basic proof of concept or MVP or a prototype where you start engaging with your customers just to make sure that you are solving the right problem and that the market is ready for what you are wanting to provide. I think the biggest thing is that if you don't have customers, you definitely don't have a business. And this is very important. You need to know your customers. You need to know how they behave. You need to segment your customers into segments that really gives you insights into whether you are providing the right solution for them or not. You need to know their spending behavior. You need to know what things matter to them. That is the only way that you are going to know whether you have found or you are providing a solution for the right market. Then once you understand the market, you understand your customer, you understand your solution, then you need to build a competitive advantage. And this is where you differentiate yourself from your competitors. It could be direct competitors, it could be indirect competitors, it could be some people or some businesses that are in close proximity to you, or it can be a big multinational that could quickly launch and start taking your customers or adding more value than that what you are doing. So the key thing here, I don't think it's the numbers where you want to have the biggest market share. I think the critical thing with being competitive is just knowing how differently you are from other people or other products that are already in the market. I cannot stress number 5 as I want to. This is super important, and I spoke about it in the previous slide briefly, where once you know what you are wanting to do or what you are doing, then you really need to look at whether you have the right team, whether you are the right team to execute this idea. And the only way that you are going to attract and prepare a superior team is you knowing what you are doing and being able to clearly articulate what the value is for your customers, and of course what the value is for team members. Or it might be a co-founder, or it might be just people that are going to fill the critical functions that you need in your startup. And then you need to build scalable transaction processes. And also this one, I think what I've seen is that when we launching our startups, we tend to think very small. So I'm in Cape Town, and what I've seen is that people think of Cape Town, think of South Africa, but we don't think beyond. And I think that is the advantage of having it a technology-driven business, is that if you've proved that it works in this market, you can actually launch it in other similar markets, or you can tweak the product to fit different markets. That's why it's important when you are building processes right at the beginning. Think about, I now have 100 customers, but what if this thing it was to blow out tomorrow, and I have a 1,000 customers or 1,000,000 customers? Would my processes be able to take on the weight of those customers? Because also once you offer a product and it's in the service of customers and they like it, one mistake or the app crashes for a week, there it is, you will quickly lose your customers. I won't dwell a lot on designing the customer journey, but it's really keep on knowing where your customer is, what they are doing, and whether you are still providing a relevant solution. Once you have all those building blocks about your venture, then you build the infrastructure about or around your venture to make sure that when it launches, or if it launches, then you have all the right infrastructure around it. It can be funding, it can be linked to processes, it can be linked to the technology itself. And then you need to secure stakeholder buy-in. This could be partners that you can leverage on to help you launch the product or get to the market quicker. So it could be maybe bigger players in the market. So once again, I think the critical thing is to just start. So if you wake up with an idea, start actioning it, speak to people about it. I know there's also this anxiety around other people stealing your ideas if you talk about them quickly without, maybe patenting it if there is a need to do that. But I think that you can't really launch a business without talking about it. You need to engage with customers, you need to build a team, and you definitely need to speak to other people in the ecosystem that can share their learnings on how they went from an idea to launch. And then this last section of the session is really about reflecting and sharing insights on navigating the tech ecosystem, particularly as women. So I will be talking about this through my own perspective of working with founders and also being a founder myself. So we all know that, and research backs this up, that women-owned businesses can deliver attractive returns for investors. It's not as we want it to be in the tech ecosystem. We still see a huge discrepancy or gap in funding women-owned on businesses. I was reading an article by one of my mentors, Lelemba Piri, who's also a VC and a gender lens angel investor, where she says in one article that one of the biggest misconceptions about gender lens investing is that it is a fad that is more about feminine revolution than a real business opportunity with competitive returns. So I think it's how society is, but I think there has never been a time. I think in the history, we've had many women that have been spearheading this, and many women that have paved, I think, the way for us, but we still see most investments going to men. And I think this is something that I'm very interested in and that I'm very passionate about. But I just wanted to reiterate this, that business ideas, execution, and viable businesses are not gendered. It's just said how the ecosystem is, where if you don't have a male co-founder or a male founder, particularly white males, then already the way that you're showing up in certain spaces, you still have to prove yourself. You still have to prove to other people that you are worthy of being in this ecosystem, and that you are worthy to be the one that is actually founding this business. So I've gone through a lot of this, and in the years that I've been in this space, I just wanted to share I think little nuggets of how I'm doing it and how I'm doing it for other women. Incredibly important and powerful. You need to find your tribe. And this doesn't only to be women, it needs to also be men. And it actually needs to be men because they already own the space so much that I think that if it shouldn't be women against men, it should be both. And I believe in walking hand in hand with men because they own or they think they own most of the spaces. And if we are going to make it a war between men and women, I don't think that it will ever work. So my own tribe is filled with both women and men who back me up in business decisions, in the world of work, where sometimes you just need people to be in your corner and to support you as you go through this journey. It can be a very lonely journey, so you really need to find these people to invest in them and to have them invest in you. You also need to back yourself first. And I wanted to share how I've done it. I think naturally, if you walk into a room and people see that you are doubting yourself, you don't believe in your own idea, then how do you expect them to back you up? So for me, it has taken a lot of personal work where I've gotten comfortable in my own skin, but also I've gotten comfortable owning my capabilities and owning my genius. And we all know that sometimes women, sometimes we downplay ourselves, or we want to be modest, or we don't want to share our wins. We don't want to share our achievements because we don't want to be called cocky or bossy and all of that. But I think this is exactly what we need to do to change the status quo and to change how society thinks of women and our capabilities. You need to get out of your comfort zone. I used to hate speaking in public. I used to hate engaging with other people that don't look like me, or they don't sound like me. But now I challenge myself to go into spaces where I wouldn't necessarily go into. This is very important for yourself. It's also very important to be visible in the ecosystem, but also to interact with people that you wouldn't necessarily meet in your comfort zones. And then you need to execute and deliver. And yes, results are not gendered. So if you let your work speak for you, I do a lot of that. I love working in the background and getting results. And I mean, when people see results, they're not gonna question, is it a woman or is it a male? And also when you have influence, especially in the tech or entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem, when you are a woman of influence, like I believe I am, we need to use our power to change the space for other women. We need to empower other women through opening the doors that they wouldn't be able to open on their own. I do this through mentoring other women, but also career sponsoring other women. So if people are asking me about service providers, incredible speakers or facilitators in this ecosystem, I always make sure that I introduce other women. And because I'm already a woman of influence, people are they you know, when you're a person of influence in a space, people they trust your judgment about other people. So that's how I do it. So to end this session, your network is really your net worth. So the people that you hang around with, the people that you share your ideas with, the people that you speak to about your work, they really have a huge impact on how you show up in this ecosystem, but also how you also show up in the world as a whole. And we need to be deliberate as women about building those networks and leveraging them. So don't be afraid to pitch to people. Don't be afraid to talk about your ideas. Don't be afraid to approach people and to say, this is the value that I'm bringing. Can you introduce me to so and so? But you need to do a lot of work before you even get there. Thank you.